Are you tired of repetitive tasks eating up your precious time? Now imagine automating virtually any digital task without any subscription fees or operational limits. Today, I'm going to show you how to set up n8n, a powerful open source automation tool that's completely free when you host it yourself. So let's transform your daily workflow and save you hours every week. Hey there neighbors, I'm Ryan the Tech Guy and welcome back to This Smart House. Today we're exploring n8n, the versatile automation platform that's suitable for both IT professionals and really anyone who's looking to streamline their digital life. Now I've tested and used numerous automation tools, including make.com, IFTTT, and Zapier. And while these are all extremely useful, n8n offers a comparable or even superior capabilities. So what exactly is n8n? Well, it's an open source workflow automation tool that connects your apps and services to create automated processes. You can trigger actions based on emails, transfer data between platforms like Todoist and Notion, or build very complex workflows, all with minimal coding experience. Though some JavaScript is helpful, but not required, especially if you use a tool like ChatGPT as your coach. And another great feature is their workflow template gallery, where the enthusiastic community has posted their creations. And a lot of these workflows are actually powered by AI like ChatGPT, which really cuts down a lot of the coding. Now, as I mentioned at the top, one of the things I like about n8n is the fact that it's completely free when you self-host it. Meaning if you run this on your own hardware, you can have unlimited automations without any per operation charge or task limits. Of course, if you're going to use a paid API like OpenAI, you'll have to shell over money for access to that. And self-hosting gives you total control to scale as much as needed. You can start off small and run it on an existing piece of hardware you have, like even your Home Assistant box. Then later on give it its own dedicated server or even host it in the cloud. Your automation possibilities are really only limited by your imagination. So speaking of productivity tools that help you accomplish more, I want to share something with you that's been helping me stay focused in my daily life. Now I've recently started a new routine that helps me stay focused when I've got a packed day ahead. And if you're anything like me, you probably have had about 1,000 things pull your attention away before you've even made your first cup of coffee. So I was excited when Magic Mind reached out to me and asked if I wanted to partner with them on their 7-day challenge. I figured, why not? They sent me a few bottles and told me to drink one each morning for about a week and see if I noticed any change in focus, energy, or just getting through my day without a lot of distractions. Now I've actually already made this part of my morning routine. I drink one of these first thing before I brew my cup of coffee, before all the madness starts in my home. It's got matcha, nootropics, and adaptogens. Basically stuff that helps with focus and productivity without a big caffeine crash later on. And the taste? Overall, it's pretty smooth, with a little earthiness from the matcha and a little tang. But honestly, not bad at all. But I've already noticed a difference. I felt calmer, more focused, and I'm able to skip my second cup of coffee or avoid the mid-morning energy drink. So if you want to try some for yourself, you can go to magicmind.com/smarthouse20 and use my code SMARTHOUSE20 for up to 48% off your first subscription. But hurry, that deal only lasts for the next 10 days. Now, let's see what we need to get n8n set up. So before we begin the installation, here's what you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need a computer that runs Docker. Now this platform is compatible with Windows, Mac, or Linux. You're also going to need just a little bit of basic command line knowledge, just enough to copy and paste the commands and know where to put them. And of course, you'll need an internet connection to download the Docker image. And this is optional, but I would recommend it, some storage for persistence. This means when you reboot the Docker container, your data stays. By default, when you set up an image, it doesn't actually allocate storage, so I'm going to show you how to do this. This is super important because you want to continue using this tool day in and day out. And don't worry about typing everything you see on screen. You can follow along with the blog post that I've got down here below and copy paste the commands in. Everyone ready? Let's begin. So the first step to getting n8n installed is actually setting up Docker. But you may be asking, what is Docker? Well, Docker is a platform that allows you to package applications and their dependencies into standardized units called containers. Think of a container as a lightweight, portable, virtual environment that can run consistently across different machines. This means you can develop and test an application in one environment and be confident that it's going to work the same way when deployed elsewhere, solving the classic "it works here on my machine but nowhere else" problem. Now for our n8n setup, Docker ensures that you can run the application without worrying about conflicts with other software on your system. Each container is isolated, but can be easily set up, started, stopped, and removed when needed. So the first thing we're going to need to do is choose our installation method. Now the two main options for installing Docker are, first, the Docker engine, which is the core container that runs on Linux systems. So if you're running on a Linux system, this is a lightweight and command line based way of doing it. It's perfect for servers or development environments where you want minimal overhead. The second option is Docker Desktop. This is a more user-friendly application and available for Windows and Mac that includes the Docker engine, plus some additional tools like a graphical user interface for managing the containers, visual container monitoring, and easier configuration settings. So for beginners or those wanting a more visual experience, this is probably the way to go. If you're a more experienced user, then you probably don't need this tutorial on how to set up Docker. Now there's one more super secret method if you happen to be a Home Assistant OS user. Because one of the cool things about Home Assistant is it's actually already running on Docker. So every add-in that you run under Home Assistant OS is actually just a Docker container. So there's already a super simple way of installing n8n. So be aware, this is required to be on Home Assistant OS, meaning that you have the capability of doing add-ons. If you don't see add-on options, then you're running the wrong version of Home Assistant, and this won't work for you. So we just need to go to Settings, go to Add-ons, click the Add-on Store, and then we're going to search. And of course, we're going to see it's not available in the normal add-on store. So before we actually install it, we're going to need to add the repository to our add-on store. And if you go to the link I got down here below, it'll take you to the GitHub page where you can just copy the GitHub URL at the top. So we're going to take that URL, we're going to go back to the add-on store, click Add-on Store, go to the top right-hand corner and click on Repositories. Then in here, we're going to paste in that URL and then click Add. Then click Close. Now we search for n8n, then we're going to refresh the page. And then at the bottom here, we'll see n8n as an option. So we can click on that and click Install. So now that it's installed, before we can actually activate it, we need to go to Configuration, set our time zone. And if you aren't familiar with your TZ time zone name, I've got a link right here below that'll take you to the Wikipedia article where you can find yours. Mine's America/Chicago. We've also got two additional options of environmental variable lists and command line arguments. We're not going to use either one of those right now. We'll click Save, go to Info, and Start. Then after giving it a few minutes, you can click the Open Web UI, and it'll take you into the interface. So that's it for the Home Assistant users. Now you're ready to go. So this is a great option if you already have a machine dedicated to Home Assistant and you've got enough hardware left over to try it out. If you're going to be using this seriously, I'd recommend installing this on a separate machine, which we'll get to here in just a second. Now for everybody else, let's get it set up in Docker Desktop. And go to docker.com/products/docker-desktop. We're going to then download it for your platform, in my case, Windows 64-bit. Once that's downloaded, we'll go ahead and open it and run it. We're going to accept the defaults and let it install. This should take a few minutes. Now for this video, I won't take you through how to set this up in command line. Let me know if you want a quick tutorial on that. It's pretty easy, and I figured if you're going to tackle the command line, you probably already know what you're doing. But there is a link in the blog post to the installation article from Docker on how to install it on Linux. It's actually pretty easy. So now that we're back in Windows, we're going to go ahead and run Docker Desktop, and we're going to get... So when you do first open Docker Desktop, it is going to ask you to install or set up Windows Subsystem for Linux. So when you see this command prompt popped up, just hit Enter, and then it's going to ask you to sign as administrator, and then it's going to go ahead and install WSL. You won't have this issue on Mac because it's already Unix-based. So when it says press any key to exit, we'll hit, and in my case, I closed it, so I need to reopen Docker Desktop. Now we'll see the Docker engine's actually starting. All right, once you see the screen, that means that Docker is fully running, and you can confirm that in the bottom left-hand corner, but it says that the engine is running. So what we need to do is go up here to the search bar and type in n8n, and we want to find the n8n io/n8n. So then once it comes up, we want to click pull. So then we need to go down to where it says terminal, click that. It's going to bring up a little terminal window here. And so next what we're going to do is need to create a folder where we're going to store the data from n8n. So in Windows, we're just going to use make directory. This is going to fall into my user because I'm logged in, home directory, and it's going to be a hidden folder called n8n. That's what the dot means. So we'll hit that, and it's created the folder. So we've already pulled the n8n image. So we want to go back to the search where we searched for before. We find our n8n, and we're going to hit run. We're going to click optional settings. We're going to click run, optional settings, call it n8n, assign the host port of 5678. Under host path, we're going to click the three dots here, and then we're going to go up a directory, and then we're going to find my user folder, and we're going to select that .n8n folder we created earlier. Select folder. And then under container path, we're going to type in /home /node/.n8n. This is going to link these two folders together. Real quick, I did discover after doing some testing that there's an additional environmental variable that we want to add during setup. So when we are setting up our container, we need to go down here to environmental variables and add one called n8n_secure_cookie, all in caps, and set that to false. This will allow you to access this from a non-secure port inside your network. Obviously, this is not recommended if you're going to use this outside. I'm not covering how to set up an external access to n8n in this video, but just keep that in mind. You're going to need this if you say set this up on a separate machine and you want to access it from another one. You'll need to have this activated. So then we can click run. Now if we go back to the main menu, we're going to see the log files. We're going to watch until it tells us it's finished. Okay. So now it says editor is now accessible via this address. So we're going to go and click right on it. And there we go. n8n is now set up and ready for us to create our user account and get started. Now, one thing to note, since I'm running this on the same machine, the address is localhost. If I needed to gain access to this from another machine, I would need to type in this machine's IP address, :5678. So just in case you didn't know that. One thing to note is if you do want to access this from another machine on your network, you're going to have to go in and disable the firewall on your device. In Windows, it's pretty simple. You just go into Control Panel or search for firewall and then disable it for your private network. Something similar needs to happen on Mac or Linux. All right, now that we have n8n running on our system, let's go ahead and get it set up and walk through the basics. So of course you're gonna have to set up an email address, give it your first and last name, and then give it a password. Again, this is something you wanna make sure it's very secure. And then you can click next, and you can go through the customize n8n for you if you want to. Now, one cool thing that they have added in recently, this may go away, is you can actually get some premium features for free if you sign up for one of their email newsletters. And I would recommend doing this because it gives you the advanced debugging capabilities, which we'll look at later on. But I would recommend setting it for it. It's free, you get a couple emails from them, no big deal. But I'm gonna hit skip on this because I already got set it up on my main instance. So here on the main page, we've got our overview, which is our current page, which shows us the workflows, credentials, and executions. And then we have the templates button down here, which will take us to the n8n website where we can see all the different workflow templates. These are really cool because you can go in here and click on them. And if you want to use this, you can click use for free and it will actually automatically import it in by copying it to your clipboard, and then you can import it into your self-hosted instance. So it's really easy to bring in these examples and play with them. Variable is not supported on the free community plan. And then at the bottom here, we have update indicator to let you know when you need to update n8n. First things we're gonna do is go ahead and create a new workflow. So we're gonna click start from scratch, and I'll take you through some of the basics of how it works. So you're gonna get kind of into this empty area, which is this canvas where you can kind of maneuver around. Down here in the bottom left, we've got zoom out to basically to extents to the entirety of what you've got on the screen. Zoom in, zoom out, and then tidy up, which will help line up everything at the end. At the top left, you've got the name of the workflow, which you can click on and rename. You've got custom tags, which you can use to sort out in the workflow area. And then at the top here, we're in the editor tab or the executions tab. The executions tab is where we see every time we've either tested or it's ran. And then at the top right-hand corner, we've got the workflow activation. So this is where if you want to take one offline to work on it, you can deactivate it. Share, where you can send it out to other folks, and then save, which is an all-important button. Since we don't have any nodes, we can click add first step here at the bottom, and it's gonna try to set up a trigger. So we'll go through these real quick, the different triggers that are available. Trigger manually basically means when we hit the test button, this will run. This is where you'll pretty much start with everything. You've also got on app event, which will take you into the catalog of all the various application integrations they have that can be used as triggers. You've got on a schedule, which if you're more techie, this is what used to be called the cron. This allows you to set up an automated schedule that repeats at custom intervals, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. On webhook call, and this is a more advanced topic that we'll cover probably in another video, but this allows you to integrate n8n into another web-based application like Notion. You've also got form submission, where you can create custom forms that you can access, fill in information, and then it will run your automation with those variables, which is pretty neat. We've got workflows, so we can actually set up workflows that can interact with each other, where you can have one workflow call another workflow. Say you've got a function that you want to run over and over and over again, like formatting or sending a command. You can create a separate workflow with just those commands in it and then call it from a different workflow. There's a few other ones here which we won't get into for this video. So for right now, I'm gonna have it trigger manually. So every time I click this test workflow, it's gonna execute. You'll see the little checkbox and then go on with whatever else you're wanting to do. If we click the plus button, now we'll see a little bit different of a menu. We've got things broken down into different topics. These are the actions that can happen. We've got advanced AI, which we won't go into, but is super powerful, and we'll probably do a video on it later on. Action in an app. This is that, again, that same menu where we see all the different apps that we can interact with. So for example, if I went into Notion here, we can click that and it shows me all the actions that I can do with Notion. Get database pages, search a database, append a block, pretty much anything you want to do with the API, it's already pre-built in to n8n. We could also look at like Google Drive, for example, which I use quite a bit. We've got all the different API functions of Google Drive already built in here. So in addition to app actions, we also have some advanced nodes that allow us to manipulate the different data that comes through n8n. So we can run custom code on the parameters that we want, which is JavaScript or Python code. You can have it run a more advanced command to manipulate data or make changes. We won't really get into that again here. That's a topic for a later video. It's also got some predefined variable manipulations for like date and time. This edit field set is something you use a lot. It allows you to inject new variables or modify things. We've also got different items to add or remove items into the workflows. So we've got filters, we've got limits, we've got remove duplicates and splits, which are great if you have a list, like an array, and you want to split it out individual items. That's what that does. Aggregate is the exact opposite. It takes items that are separated and then converts them into a single array. You've also got merge, which lets you take two strings and merge them into one. Summarize, which is math functions. And then a bunch of other more advanced topics that, again, we won't get into here, but they are available. We also have flow, which these are your basic if, then, and loops. So again, we've got filter, which will basically stop a branch right when it encounters a filter or let something through. We've got if, which allows you to set you've got if, which is a simple if command, which allows you to set if it's true, it goes one way, or if it's false, it goes another. You've got loop, which is a standard loop where it'll execute until it runs out of items or hits an escape. You've got, again, we've talked about merge already. We've also got switch down here, which allows you to do sort of a case where if you say, if the variable is equal to 1, take output 1. If the variable is equal to 2, take output 2, those sort of things. And you also have wait, which you can have it say wait for a condition or wait for amount of time. And with the other ones, we won't really get into, again, much more advanced topics. So that's the basic structure of what n8n is, but don't worry, it seems a little confusing. We'll go through some examples real quick and I'll show you how to create something basic, and we'll go through kind of how a workflow actually functions. All right, so now that we understand some of the basic blocks and functions within n8n, let's quickly look at a couple of examples that are available to show you kind of how workflows move along. So for this one, I'm going to be taking you through one of their quick start guides if you'd like to follow along. This is for the Your First workflow. This workflow will query the NASA API, find any solar flares in the last 7 days. Then we're going to check those solar flares to see if any of them were class X, which is the most severe, and then return one type of data if it is, and return another type of data if it isn't. The data here really doesn't matter. The workflow is not really important what it does. It's more of just showing you all these different things that you can do in the workflow. So it's going to go over starting workflows with trigger nodes, configuring credentials, which is super important, processing data, showing how to use logic in an n8n workflow, an if then, and then showing how to use expressions or JavaScript expressions. So all of these will be key concepts. So again, the example itself really doesn't matter. You could do any setup you wanted to, but this one's fairly simple and it doesn't require a lot of additional components to set up. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to click on a schedule. And I want this to run every day. So the trigger interval is days. I want it to run every single day. So if I wanted to run every other day, I'd make this a 2. And I can select what hour. So say I want to make it at 2:30 in the morning. Then we're going to add a new node. We're going to add the NASA node. And I'm going to see information on solar flares. So you'll notice here at the top though, there's an option to select a credential. Because the NASA API requires authentication, we need to set up a credential. And so to do that, we just need to click select credential and create new credential. And then within here, typically if it's a pre-built one, you'll automatically have this need help filling out the fields. If you click that, it's going to take you to the documentation and tell you how to get an API key or how to sign up for that particular service. So we're going to go to the NASA's Open API page. I'm going to put in my information, and we'll click sign up. Of course, it's very important for you to read through all of the information here, including the rate limits, but I'm not going to get into that right now. And they're going to email me my API key here in a few minutes. So I received an email with my API key, which I've got blurred out on screen, of course. You want to take this key, obviously keep this email for future reference, and then we're going to go back into n8n, and we're going to paste that key in here, and then hit save. So n8n is going to store this credential in, so anytime I put in the NASA node, it's going to automatically load in that credential, so then I can retrieve whatever information I want. So to test this, I can just click test step, and it's going to retrieve all the latest solar flares, which, as you can see, a lot of really cool information that's available. So this isn't very useful information because it's just all of the solar flare data it had, but we can click this add field property and we can select start date. So now we can actually select a start date where we want to pull this information from. Now you could just enter or select a date that you wanted here, but that's not really good programmatically because it's always going to select the same date over and over again. Instead, we can use what's called an expression, which will use a little bit of JavaScript and give us a programmatic either variable or some other timestamp. So I'm going to clear this out and I click the expression button so it lets me write the expression. And every JavaScript expression has to be contained within double curly brackets. And as you can see, when you type in those double curly brackets, it's going to pop up and give you some suggestions. So one of the common things that's used in JavaScript language is just the variable of today, which is going to produce a date timestamp of what today's date is. But say I want to see solar flares for the last week. This isn't going to do much good. How am I going to programmatically tell it to do the last 7 days? So in that case, I need to take the current timestamp and go back 7 days. And to do that, I just need to put dot minus. You can see it's one of the functions. If I hit tab, it'll autocomplete. So as you can see by the format there, I need to type in the number of days. So 7, comma, and then what the unit it is. So obviously if I was going to go back 7 minutes, I could type in minutes. But here I'm going to type in days. So now you can see it's gone to 1 week ago, which is the 21st. So let's go ahead and hit test step. Now we only see the solar flares that were on the 21st or later. This is okay because it can accept this date format, but what if your date format isn't correct? Well, there are actual nodes that can do this for you easily. You can actually do a date time calculation using the datetime node, but we can also do some tricks here in JavaScript. So another one of those great JavaScript functions I use all the time is toFormat. And so all we're doing is typing in dot format, and then we need to provide it with the proper format that we want. And in this case, they're looking for year hyphen month hyphen date. So in that case, we need to put a single quote and then type in YYY dash capital MM hyphen DD. So therefore, we've now changed it to just a simple year, month, date format. And then hit test step. And again, since this API can take either one, it's completely fine. But now we have only returned the data for the date range we want, which is today past 7 days. So we see it's retrieved 8 items. So then for the next step, we're going to do a logic, which we're going to do if. So we're going to create an if node. So say we want to get an alert based on what type of class of solar flare this is. We're going to grab this class type here, drag it into the value 1. It's going to insert the properly formatted variable. And then since this is a string because it contains a character, we can do any of these string compares. So we want to say is equal to and x, which x is the highest type of solar flare that's available. Let's test step. And we see nothing was returned because there has not been that type of solar flare in the last 7 days. But if there was one, we would sure want to know about it. Now, because we don't want to set up Gmail or anything like that with this example, we're going to use Pastebin, which is a very easy way for us to create a temporary web page. Think of it as a notepad online. In the event that there is a large solar flare, we want to have one message. And if in the event that there's another solar flare of a smaller value, then we'll use a different style message. So we'll click back out to here, and as we can see, 0 items passed to the true and 8 items passed to the false. And it's always a good idea to take one of these nodes and come up here and give it a name. So I'm gonna call it if class type X. That just makes it easier when you're debugging to what does it look like. So we're gonna click on here. So there's actually a well-documented error in their tutorial. The built-in postbin function doesn't actually work to post for some reason. So we're gonna go ahead and just use a manual HTTP request, which can send any request you want to go ahead and create that. So we're gonna go to postbin.in, and then we're gonna create a bin by clicking create bin. And then you'll notice right here, there's a wget command. This is gonna create a temporary bin that's only alive for about 30 minutes. So it's just used for testing. So again, this is just an example of how to send data. So this is your bin ID, but we've actually already got down here, www.postb.in/our number, which is up here. Copy that. So we need to create the HTTP request, which we type that in here. And we're going to change the method from get to post because we're putting data somewhere. And then we're going to paste that URL in that we had before. Then we want to activate send body. And then under here, under body parameters, we're going to go ahead and define information we want to return. So we're going to say class. So it's going to return the class type. We want to return the beginning time. So these are just variables that I'm making up to show this off. So then we want to do the same thing for the true. So we're going to click on this and click duplicate and drag that over here. But you'll notice when we go in here, we don't have any data because there has not been a successful true. So sometimes to cheat, all you need to do is just drag from the false over here. So then you have your code and you have your input variables that are easy to establish. So for this one, since this is going to be an X type, which is a major type, we're going to make a new value called alert. Then I'll go back to the false and I'll say add parameter alert 0. And also to make this easier, we'll go ahead and change this to false and this to true. So now to test this, I'm going to click test workflow and it pulled up 21 items. It checked to see if any of them were an X. None of them were. So it's going to send all 21 of them to the false node, which is going to send out that command with the alert as 0. So then I'll go back over here to, so we'll go back to our post bin, refresh the page, and we should see 21 different outputs, each of them with those variables I created, what class it is, start time, and alert. So it'll be very easy for you to set up something where if the alert was 1, then do something different, or you could eliminate all the smaller ones and just return the major solar flare if you wanted to. And again, the data here doesn't really matter. It's more of just showing you how to formulate and create a workflow in n8n. Most likely you aren't going to use this specific example, but it kind of shows you how the system works and how you can create access to APIs and send data to another location. It's going to be a lot more functional if you're going to email something or send it out, which we'll handle in a later video. But at least now you've got a better understanding of how n8n kind of works. All right, so there we go with some basic examples of what n8n can do. We've taken a look at how to get it installed, how to get it configured, and a basic example. Now I know we just scratched the surface of what's capable with this piece of software, so I do plan on putting out more videos with some of the automations that I use day in and day out. But if we quickly take a look at my live environment for my n8n server, you can see I have a ton of workflows that I use. Some of these are ones that I've just tested and played around with. Some are used every single day. So for example, I have one automation that I've recently created that allows me to interact with my new Remarkable Paper Pro. So I can take any PDF that I generate inside of Paper Pro. So if I make a daily sheet and I want to export that, I upload that to a specific folder in Google Drive. Then this automation here will actually take that item, depending on what folder it is in. It'll create a new Notion note, store that PDF in the Notion note, and then it takes a little link and creates it at the top of the page. If I click that link, it'll actually take the PDF, cut it into separate images. It'll feed those one at a time to ChatGPT with a custom command that then extracts the text from my handwriting. It'll even recognize things like to-do boxes or to-do items that have been crossed off. Then it automatically drops that back into Notion, and then I can process my actions from there. So you can see that this can do a lot of, so you can see this tool is extremely powerful and can do a lot. And the beauty of n8n is the fact that the more that you use it, the more things you'll find that you can automate. So fair warning, this could consume a lot of your time. So thanks for making it through this video. If you do have any questions or you want to talk about an idea, please leave it down in the comments below. And also don't forget, if you want to try Magic Mind for yourself, you can go to magicmind.com/smarthouse20 and then make sure you enter the code smarthouse20 for up to 48% off your first subscription. So if you want to see some of my other automation videos, I've got a whole playlist over here, including an introduction into web APIs. I've also got a dedicated video on YAML if you are a Home Assistant user. So I really appreciate making it this far, and I'll see you on the next video.